Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. In this video I'm going to be replacing the spark plugs in my 2004 BMW 325i. So this car has got the M54 inline 6 engine, so the process will be very similar to any car fitted with the M54 engine, and to be honest the process is quite similar on pretty much any petrol car. So the reason I'm changing the spark plugs is because recently the car's been suffering from a bit of a misfire on I think cylinders 2 and 4, typically at higher RPMs, so I'm sort of having to drive the car keeping the revs below sort of 4,000 or 5,000, which is obviously not a problem for most of the time, but on occasion where you want a little bit of extra power or have a little bit of fun, I've been running into this misfire. So let's get started. So these are the spark plugs I'm going to be using. They're NGK and there's the part number. So as you can see, these are 4 electrode spark plugs. So I believe that you don't need to do any gap setting on these. Okay, so let's start taking the old ones out of the car. So the first step is to remove this the cabin filter housing, which will give us access to the rear 2 spark plugs. So to do that we first need to take this cover off. It's just held on with 3 sort of quarter turn screw type things. Then we remove the cabin filter. It's probably due a change actually. I probably will give the car a full service very soon, so I'll probably change the oil in the oil filter as well soon. It's all very easy to do on this car. So next we need to remove this, which is just held in with 4 Torx head screws. Now we need to basically release this conduit from this so that we can actually completely remove the filter housing. So I normally just unclip this like so, and then sort of pull the wires out. This part is supposed to come off, but I always find it really tricky, so I tend to just leave it in place and just do that instead. And then this just comes off like that. So next we need to remove this top plastic cover. So first I'll just temporarily remove the oil cap. Then we've got these sort of plastic covers. The rear one's missing, so I need to try and get another one of those at some point. And there's just 2 10mm nuts holding that on. So I'll just grab a socket. So that just comes off like that. And then I normally just put the oil cap back on just to make sure nothing falls in there accidentally while you're working on it. Okay, so I've just moved the camera around so you've got a better view of what's going on. But now we've got access to the ignition coils, and these just release like that. So you just lift this lever, and it's supposed to, this one hasn't for some reason. Might need to get a flathead screwdriver just to help that one along. But as you lift the lever, it's supposed to sort of pop the connector out. Let's do all 6 of those, and I'll just grab a flathead screwdriver for that one. Okay, there we go. Bit of a wiggle and sort of moving the lever down and up again, and it's all to free itself. Okay, so that's all the ignition coils disconnected. So next we just need to remove the ignition coils, and I don't know if it really matters, but I tend to try and keep them married up to the same cylinder, so coil 1 goes back on cylinder 1, etc. So let's just pull them out. They should just pull. Sometimes I use a tool of some kind to pull them out. Sometimes they can be a bit stiff. So these are the ignition coils. Put them to one side. As I say, I'm just going to keep them in order. Okay, so now we have full access to the spark plugs. So I'll just show you a close-up. So the spark plugs are down in those tubes. So all we need to do now is just get a spark plug socket on an extension bar with a ratchet, and then we can loosen and remove them. Now I recommend using an actual spark plug socket because it basically has a rubber, I don't know if you can see that, but there's like a rubber grommet inside, and basically what that does is it grips onto the spark plug. So once you fully unscrewed it, it will basically stay retained in the socket and not sort of down in the hole. So that's cylinder number 1. Looks a bit crusty. Now, off the top of my head, I can't remember what the different colours and appearances of spark plugs mean, but if you look it up online on Google or something, I'm sure you'll find a chart or a picture or something showing you various examples of spark plugs and what they typically mean. Just as a comparison, we've got the old one on the left and the new one on the right, so you can see you can see what they should look like and what these currently look like. One thing I would advise as well is just before you remove the spark plug, just inspect the spark plug tube just to see if there's any build-up of oil in there, because you don't really want the oil from getting into the cylinder if you can avoid it. So I'm just going to use my inspection light to peer down each hole and just see what's going on. So this is cylinder 1. After removing the spark plug, you can see there's a little meniscus of oil at the bottom there, but nothing too crazy. Cylinder 2, similar story. Cylinder 3, cylinder 4, cylinder 5, and cylinder 6. So what you can end up with is a build-up of oil in your spark plug tubes, and that can basically cause the spark plug to short out, so you lose your spark on that cylinder and hence develop a misfire. It's worth just checking to make sure that you've not got a build-up of oil in those tubes, and if you have, then normally there's a gasket that comes as part of the valve cover gasket kit, or at least it does on the BMW, and basically there's a gasket for the spark plug tubes as well, and if you've got leaks there, it's probably because that gasket's failed, or that the valve cover itself is slightly warped, which can happen with the plastic valve cover. So I've got no concerns over the amount of oil that's in the spark plug tubes. There's a little bit there, but I don't think it's anything to cause any problems. So I'm going to remove the rest of the spark plugs and then get the new ones installed. Alright, so here are the spark plugs. So we've got cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So I would say that cylinders 1 and 6 look to be the worst, but I'm pretty sure it's 2 and 4 that were misfiring according to the diagnostics. So that's number 2 there, and that's number 4 there. So not too sure about that, but as you can see, none of them are looking particularly great, so definitely worth changing them. And they've probably done a good 20 to 30,000 miles at least. I must admit, I can't remember what the mileage was when I last changed them. Let's get the new ones installed and then see how well the engine runs. So to install the spark plugs, I recommend inserting it into the socket so it's nice and secure, and then basically just gently screw it in by hand to begin with. So I'm going to get them all screwed in by hand, sort of finger tight, and then I'll look up what the torque specs are, because I'm not too sure what they are off the top of my head, and then torque them up, and then we'll basically just give the engine a test before we put everything back together. Okay, so all the spark plugs are installed, finger tight. Just remembered I've got the Haynes manual for this car, so I'm just going to refer to this for the torque specs for the spark plugs. Alright, so it took me a minute to find it, but the spark plug torque wrench settings are here in section 1.2, which is under servicing specifications, and it's right down here at the bottom. So it depends on the thread of the spark plug, whether it's M12 or M14. So it's either 23 or 30 Newton meters. Measuring the spark plug thread with a digital caliper measures just under, well, about 13.8 millimeters. So I'd say that's an M14. So we need to use 30 Newton meters. So I'm going to set my torque wrench to 30 Newton meters. The scale's a bit weird on this one, but I believe that is now 30 Newton meters. So we've got 28 there, and we've gone past. So on 0 there, it would have been 28. So we're now 2 above that, which makes it 30. Or at least that's how I interpret it. So let's get these tightened up. Okay, they're all torqued to 30 Newton meters now. So let's get the ignition coils installed and then see if it'll start. Just make sure they're all seated properly. Alright, so the car should start now, so as long as nothing weird's happened. So I'm just going to move my tools out of the way, make sure it starts. Right, so everything sounds okay, engine runs nice and smooth, no misfires at the moment, so obviously I didn't rev it too much because it's cold, so I'll just have to see how it performs out on the road. Alright, so that is how you change the spark plugs on a 2004 BMW E46 325i. I hope you found the video useful or interesting. If you did, then please give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss my future videos. As always, thank you for watching and have a nice day.